Hi everybody. Oop, here we go. Hi everybody. So this is a late starting live video for me this evening, and I hope you guys are having a great night. I'm sitting in my office, and behind me is a window, and I can just hear the wind absolutely whistling. It feels cold, and I'm just inside my house. Today I wanted to do a real quick video on how people measure happiness, and I was watching a video from Gary Vaynerchuk, actually, who was in his Gary V kind of a way, lambasting the audience with the way that people define happiness, and that somehow someone said that happiness is when you make $1 million or you create a business and you sell it for, $500 million. And for some reason, that's what happiness ultimately is. And yet there is just as much of a likelihood that the person who goes to work every day, logs into their 9 to 5 job, does a great job, loves what they do, feels really happy, and that is just as successful as the person who makes $1 million. And what I've come to realize is, just from the people that I have met, people like pro NFL ball players, millionaires, people who were really, really, really good at what they did, people who made well into the 7 figures, and yet, they were so incredibly miserable. Even though they were amazing at what they did, they were at the top of their game, literally, and yet they felt completely unfulfilled. And I went through a phase in my life, up until fairly recently, where I was doing something and I'm really good at it, right? I can run a Facebook ad and they work really well. And yet the joy of doing that had completely evaporated, and I didn't wake up happy every day. And there was nothing, technically wrong with, me or my life. And yet, because I had a nice house and a good car and a great husband and great kids and everything seemed to be tickety-boo. So, what have I got to worry about? Like, what are you complaining about, right? First world problems all around. But that's not what's important. What's important is that you know what you want to do in this world, and you know that you are actually making a difference. No one wants to go to the end of their life and say, well, that didn't really affect anyone's life and I didn't really accomplish anything. Like, that doesn't feel good. And one of the things that I realized with all of these people, every single person who was at the top of their game, doing really, really great from all, intents and purposes, and yet they quit. And they didn't quit because they were quitters. They quit because they were miserable with their lives. And what happened is they needed to redefine how they could have a meaningful impact on the lives of other people. And so I went through this phase as well. And so in case this is you, going through the motions, and if you're just doing your, putting one foot in front of the other day after day after day, and nothing is coming of it, and you're not really getting anywhere, and you're not really feeling any joy in life, you're just kind of like humdrum gray, try this. Here's something that you should give a go. Try thinking of all of the words that you say to yourself, all of the phrases you tell yourself on any given day. Do you ever tell yourself things like, I'm not good enough? No one wants to listen to me. No one really cares whether I show up to work or life. Maybe you can look at yourself and say, well, I'm here, but look at my competitors and look what they're doing. And they're so much further ahead than me, and then you compare yourself to those people, and that all that does is end up making you reinforce the story of, how shitty you ultimately feel. And so try this. This is a little exercise that you can do. Try taking those stories and asking yourself, first of all, is it really, really true? And where did that particular story come from? Usually these stories that we wrap around ourselves, we do it when we say these things to ourselves because we have believed them to be true, but only because we've thought them enough times, right? And when you think of something enough, it becomes a belief. And then the belief turns into action or inaction, as the case may be. But if you decide that you're going to change one small thing, so say, for instance, you're not doing live videos because you're afraid that little number that you see at the top is going to be low, right? So I'm doing this video tonight. Sometimes there's no one watching me live. Sometimes 1 or 2 people are showing up. I don't care, because the people who are going to listen, they want to hear what I have to say. And that's what's important. So instead of saying, I'm not going to do a live video because I'm afraid no one's going to show up, say, I'm going to do a live video because I think I have something that would help the people who will be listening. If you are saying to yourself, I don't want to go and do this thing, take this course, learn how to be a keynote speaker. Let's say there's a course you can take where you can learn to be a keynote speaker. And at first you look at that and you're excited. And then instantly you say to yourself, well, who am I to take this course? And look at all these other people who've been doing keynote speaking forever and they're so much better at it and I'll never be that good. And then you close down. Like, how often have we done that to ourselves? But what if you instead turn that around and say, okay, here's a course on how to be a keynote speaker. I bet I can do this. And if I work hard at this and I learn how other people did it and I study those people who have been doing it for years and I learn from them and what they're doing, I can be a keynote speaker, right? I want to deliver a TED Talk. I think TED Talks are absolutely amazing. I love listening to them. They're super inspiring. I have it on my bucket list that I want to deliver a TED Talk. So I'm learning how to deliver TED Talks and I am practicing. I just practiced on Friday, gave a presentation at a grouping of Royal LePage agents here in my area. And I tried out my TED Talk. I had about 30 minutes to deliver. Most TED Talks are about 18 minutes, but I had a little bit more time. And you know what? It felt fantastic. So I know I still need to practice, but that's okay, right? And we stop ourselves from becoming successful. We stop ourselves from becoming happy because we think that as soon as we decide to do something, we need to be an expert. And that's what's wrong with not wrong, but that's what some of our youth are up against these days. Because they're expected to come out of university and they have this false expectation, I don't even know where they get it from, that they should have their whole lives figured out. And whatever job they get right out of university, that's the one they're going to have for the rest of their lives. Well, that's not fair, right? And it's also not true. But where does that come from? And so, they need to challenge themselves to say, life's okay to figure out in stages, right? We need to be okay as adults with where we want to go with our business. And you know what? If you want to be on stage with Tony Robbins, be on stage with Tony Robbins, right? I've got a little sticky here. I'll show it to you. It's that little pink one there. I don't know if you can see it. Oh, I always do this thing backwards. You can't read it. There's me and my backward stickiness. So it says on stage with Dean and Brendan 2019. I want to be on stage with those two. Why? Because I respect them. I love their books. I've taken one of their coaching programs. I'm about to take another one, whole other kettle of fish as to why I'm doing that. But I have that on there. You know what? I was talking to a guy today and I'm like, hey, my new friend Kendrick, who is part of this organization with Dean and Brendan, how do I get on stage with them? And by the way, how do I also get on stage and also have an opportunity to share part of my story? Because I really think it's a story with an idea worth spreading. How do I do that? And so we're figuring it out. I want to meet Richard Branson. Why? Because I like the guy. Apparently he doesn't make eye contact. That's okay, right? My mentor, who's 78 years old and an absolute dream. I love him so much. So shout out to Tony. He knows a guy who is working with Richard Branson. So I'm like, hey, hook me up with dudes so I can hook up and finally meet Richard Branson. Why? Why not? Because I want to do that. Once you start unraveling that whole challenge I had asked you guys to do in terms of asking yourself really where those stories come from and are they true and can you think again, which is the name of my new book coming out. Think again. Think again about what you're telling yourself. When you clear the air, what is left in front of you is something that you probably can be the most meaningful thing that you can do. So when I went through this process, what became crystal clear to me is over the past 10 years, I've learned a lot. I've had to come out of being a part of a group that was extremely isolating. And anyway, so when I busted out of that, I lost everything. My social network, I lost absolutely like anything that you can imagine, your friend network, a work network. I lost my job. I was on my own. And so that was a major trauma. And yet over the past 10 years, I've learned to do so much. My purpose now and for as far as I can see is to teach people who maybe have gone through traumatic events and yet, feeling that by releasing themselves from that, they will find happiness that way. Sometimes it doesn't happen, and it didn't happen for me. So what I have to teach now is when you have finally released yourself from your past and cleared the air in terms of the stories that you have been telling yourself for years and years and years, that's when you're going to find what you're really meant to do in this world. And whether that is staying right where you are, but doing maybe things a little bit differently. It could be that you're going to take your career in a different way. It could be that you're going to do what I did and just completely change your business model and do something really different. So shout out to Jill. So Jill's saying hi. Jill's someone who's a big supporter. And so, we appreciate people. I appreciate people super much like Jill, who is always there and always, cheering me on from the sidelines. And we need people like that, right? It's part of what makes us happy. And it's part of how we need to define our success a little bit differently. Yes, we want to make money. So the whole thing, money doesn't solve our problems, but it kind of solves 90% of them is absolutely true. But that last 10% is a killer. And so if we can solve that last 10%, so if you have the money or what you do will bring the money, impact over income, that's something that I think we really need to look at as a society, is how we define success. So success is not how much is in your bank account. Granted that helps and it takes away a lot of stress, but that's not success. That is just comfort, right? Success and true happiness comes when we know we're doing something meaningful, we're helping other people, and we have absolute clarity on what we are telling ourselves and about other people. So hopefully you guys have found this helpful on this blustery Friday evening. If you are somewhere warmer than me, I will live vicariously through you. It is freezing cold outside. So I'm going to stay warm and curl up by the fire and maybe go annoy one of my teenage kids because, hey, that's what moms do. All right. Again, share this if you find it helpful. I know that some people are coming on sort of right at the tail end of this this video. So if you're just listening to it now, again, the quick recap, we talked about how the way we've been measuring success is really wonky and weird, but there are other ways that you can start developing a much deeper sense of happiness and fulfillment simply by taking a couple of simple steps. So again, if you're still listening, I should have said this at the beginning, but I keep forgetting I say it at the end. I do have a $7 mastermind where I drop masterclasses every month and help you with stuff like this, but also then once you've decided on what you want to do, what kind of aligned actions can you take to really promote your message? And so I like to do really advanced marketing and sales tactics. The most recent one was how you can use live videos to really ramp up your business. Everything is going video based. So if you haven't jumped on the bandwagon, you gotta get on that. So literally it's $7 a month. And if you hate it, I'll give it back to you. But I like to deliver a whole bunch of value. And there's extra bonus training on things like how to do referrals, Facebook ads, and so much more. So I hope you guys are having a super night. Stay warm, stay awesome. Give me a couple of thumbs up down below if you're still listening. And I hope you have a fantastic day. We'll see you tomorrow. Finish.